What is up, you guys? We are here for our midweek alchemy message. I have a flickering wick candle, one of those wood wick candles that is going on behind me, and it is so loud and it's so squeaky, and I don't know if you guys can hear it, but if you've heard anything like odd and like random in my videos recently, it's probably that. It's probably my candle back there. Okay, so we're here for our alchemy message. We are just looking at the week's lessons and like spiritual themes, and we're unpacking our approach to the work. So this really follows in line with last night's reading, which was addressing the Gemini new moon, which is planting this seed, not only for the month, but for the next 6 months. But also we're in this moment where we're embarking into this new timeline, and that is my oven. We're embarking into this new timeline, and it's time to become activated in that new timeline. It's time to begin to co-create this new reality. And so we've come to a Y point in the road where we have to split off from the old identity, the old self, the old way of believing and thinking and doing things. And now we are allowing, it's like two twins, right? We are twins, and we're allowing that old self to die off, and the new self is taking over. And this new self has shed and healed so much of the past that we are like resurrected anew. We're reborn, a new creature, moving forward, just like when you're born again, right? When you ask Jesus into your heart, when you're born again into Christ, you're born a new creature. The old person dies away and a new person steps forward, and it's like alternate reality, right? So that's where we're at with the new moon. It's like the Gemini is the two twins, and it's like now we have to go forward in this new dimension and choose to be this new self, right? We're more aware of what that self looks like, but we're very aware of what it doesn't look like. Right? We've become very good at identifying our negativity, our triggers, our old patterns, and they become easier to recognize. And so that means that they're easier to diffuse before like you get triggered and become reactive, right? So that's where we find ourselves in this moment, but we're also in week 7 of the 7 weeks of the counting of the Omer. And this dimension that we are in now, the dimension of the soul, it's the final dimension. It is the fruition. It's the physical kingdom. It's Malchut. So this is about taking all the spiritual growth and healing and change and now embodying that into our being, into our reality. So things are coming into manifestation, healings, things that you might have been working on for a long time, things that you might have been working towards. It's going to start with the manifestation of the inner healing and inner growth in your embodiment of that. But then it's going to start trickling out, and blessings and opportunities and miracles are going to start happening. The change is going to start happening in your life. So from the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck, we've got breath, followed by the golden rose, followed by separation. Underneath breath, we have 5 of swords. Underneath the golden rose, we have the star card. And underneath separation, we have the feminine King of Pentacles. Now remember, in this deck, before we get too deep into the reading, There is a Queen of Pentacles. Like in all the suits, there's a queen, there's a king, and then there's a feminine king. So the feminine king is separate from the traditional masculine king. And the feminine king of any of the suits, and then the feminine emperor, represents the fully realized embodiment and mastery of the masculine aspects of that element and the feminine aspects of that element. And then they're brought together into like full wholeness, full functionality, right? So first we have breath and we have 5 of Swords. Just to address breath right off the bat, we've had for the last several weeks the universe trying to urge us into a meditation practice. I don't know about you guys, but I have been crazy busy and I have not had time to sit in quiet stillness and take time to meditate. Not as much as I've wanted to. I've had moments here and there, but like not consistent. And it's something I'm craving. I can tell that my soul wants to do that. And that could be, you know, when you sit down into that meditation, it like breakthroughs can come through, visions, insights, revelation. Your heart speaks to you, your higher mind is speaking to you, all kinds of things. But the thing about the breath is that it is our constant connection and reminder to source, right? The breath that God breathes in to our body, to our soul, to our spirit, to animate us. It's like every time we inhale and exhale, we renew that connection. We practice giving and receiving, opening space to receive and then releasing, purging and taking in. So there's this rhythm that we get into. And this is our connection, the purest, most simple connection to that life force, that vitality that's within us. This is something that doesn't require anything additional to be added unto you. So that remains true with meditation, right? It's like you just close your eyes and you breathe. By doing breath work, that breath work works on us and it activates things within our body system and our function and our, chemicals and everything like that. But it also activates parts of our soul and our spirit and our heart and our consciousness. So there's something about like doing the breath work. It teaches you, it keeps revealing truths and wisdom. It's sort of like how I feel about my forest walks. To me, they're almost like a practice. And even though I'm going down the same trails all the time, it forces me to see the subtle nuances of the details of the differences between each day that I walk, right? Yes, it is the same path, but nature's always changing and it always looks different. And there's always different smells and different plants and different things coming into blossom. And so going on those walks every day, especially when you go to the same place over and over again, it like teaches you more presence. And there's so much that the forest talks to me about and offers me and shows me and teaches me through metaphor. It's also a practice in that sometimes it's super comfortable to go out and walk in the forest. Sometimes it's a perfect dry day and it's sunny and it's the perfect temperature. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's cold. Sometimes it's wet. Sometimes it's muddy. Sometimes it's very windy and it's a little bit stormy and scary. Sometimes it's hot and muggy and sticky and there's bugs everywhere and it's uncomfortable, right? But pushing myself through the discomfort is worth it because I have all of those experiences and all of that time adds up. And it's not just a few times here and there that I've been to the park, but it's my park. Like I go there, and I make that my practice. Same with the breath. It seems very simple and straightforward, and it is. But don't underestimate it because there's so much there, so much more to be revealed. Just like on that walk down the trail, you take your breath for granted as something commonplace and, oh, you know, it's in and it's out and what's there to think about, right? But there's a lot that it can portray and teach us about, just like, you know, how we have to look for those subtle nuances, or they start to reveal themselves to us over time. Just like sometimes it might be, you know, relaxing and feel like a treat to sit and do breath work, but other times it's harder and it's laborious, right? So the breath work has been coming up recently as something important that probably our soul is like wanting to be enhanced in some way through that breath work. So I think that's a good idea to do that. But also it's something that it's like a tool, an additional tool to help purge us of any lingering grief or hard feelings that we're harboring towards the past. We really want to let go of all of the harsh, negative, low vibrational feelings and emotions and beliefs and thoughts, so that we're unanchored, unencumbered, and we're free to expand and to elevate and to transcend beyond that old timeline and create a new life and a new existence. This is also about finding rest and letting go of the things that keep us in turmoil on the inside, like grief. Refusing to accept things that we're afraid to feel the pain of. You know, sometimes we hold on, sometimes we don't accept the truth of things that happened because we don't want to grieve them, because we know that once we fully grieve that thing, it processes and we let it go, and we don't want to let it go, and we don't realize that that's why we're resisting the process, or we're resisting the grief, or we don't realize that we're holding on so tight. And so those things are like weights, and they hold us down and they keep us frozen in our life, and they keep us from moving forward. They keep things blocked. So we're purging ourselves of that. We're letting all of that heavy, dense clutter go, so we can open and make space for all of the new things and expansion that wants to come in. And so the breath helps us become malleable, become soft, become open, become receptive, ready to receive. Think about the fact that, like, when you are about to have sexual relations, not to get too graphic for the channel here, but you need to breathe in order to open up and let your body do its thing to prepare itself to take in the person who's coming in. You know, you don't want to just go straight for it. It's going to rip and tear and be uncomfortable and not be receptive. You're going to be pushing up against like a closed thing like this. It's, you know, but you need to breathe and relax and open up. So the breath work, we need to do that regularly to open up our self into this feminine, receptive yin energy, to allow the universe to basically blast us with the blessings and the seeds of our new life that's coming in. So letting go of the past, letting our bitterness be turned into sweetness, and which brings us to the golden rose paired with the star card. The golden rose is the symbol of the process of alchemy. The outer petals represent the influence that the 7 original planets have over our psyche. The inner petals represent the unknowable, the innermost hidden, the mysteries that we can't quite grasp. It's like we keep diving in further, spiraling in deeper. And it's like, just as we think we've gotten, you know, within arm's reach, it's like it slips away. It's elusive. The mysteries of reality, the mysteries of God, the mysteries of the Torah, the mysteries of the metaphysical reality that is the non-physical, right? That makes up most of What is reality? This physical representation is only like the 1%, right? So this rose represents the work that the alchemist does in, delving into the mysteries of creation, the laws of the universe, the spiritual laws, like learning the depths and the mysteries and the meaning of the Torah. As we learn these things, it's like we grow closer to God through the pursuit of this wisdom, but we also grow closer to God through our own personal transformation. And when we let go of that old self, the lower self, the carnal, reactive, selfish, afraid, violent, greedy, power hungry, lusty self, right? That animalistic self that is driven on instinct and survival, we need to transcend above that. So we're not going to obliterate that part of the self, but we're going to heal and evolve that part of the self so that we can restrict that initial reflex that comes from that self. And we can slow down and decide, okay, I feel this part of me reflexively wanting to respond, but instead I'm going to pause that self, that twin that is not in the driver's seat, and I'm going to call in my higher self, the whole perfected self that is like the future version of me when my whole soul has come together and been activated and healed and corrected. We call in that self to inform the middle self, the active being self, the simulation self. How should I approach? How should I react here? And we get that guidance from that self that is more under the influence of the Holy Spirit, right? Our higher self is under the influence of the Holy Spirit, whereas the lower self is under the influence of the opponent, of the ego, of the little devil that runs around and yanks at our ego and uses our ego as its favorite play tool to manipulate us with, right? So the more that we become more like the Creator, the more that we elevate our higher nature and restrict our lower nature, the more closer we draw to the Creator as well. Hopefully, and the idea is that the Creator wants to draw us into that total merging of the lower self with the higher self so that we can be in total oneness and union with the Creator. And that comes through our devotion, through our consistency, through our commitment to our healing and our practice and devotion as a seeker of the knowledge, of the wisdom, of the understanding, of making ourselves more like the Christ, of revealing that Christ consciousness within our heart and our mind and our soul and our strength. So now, through all of this work and transformation and healing and effort, we are now bringing into fruition, like this week of the physical kingdom, the spiritual being made manifest. It's like all of that change and transformation is becoming embodied and is becoming evident in the person that we are and who we are becoming. We have the image here, I love, of this fairy sitting at the threshold of the temple. To me, this is the symbol of the inner temple, that temple that rests deep within our heart. It's the seat of the soul. And it's, look, you can't see inside of the temple. It's dark. There's like a veil drawn, a darkness where you can't see inside. It's not revealed, right? And it's just like the mystery, that golden pearl within the center of this golden rose of alchemy. There is the most innermost hidden, and there's this unknowable part of God, and there's also these depths within ourselves that we can't quite reach. But it is in turning towards those places and opening up that space and exploring that space within us that creates that healing. And so it's by our efforts and the time that we've spent tuning in, turning inward, going into that inner temple, rebuilding that inner temple within us, our connection to Creator, our connection to the Creator, which is strengthened through the time that we spend in study, in that breath work, in prayer work, studying the scripture, being present and aware that the Creator is real and with us and is our ultimate protector and provider. And all of the things out on the outside, the boyfriends, the girlfriends, the jobs, the careers, the this and that, All of those things are just vessels, husks, that deliver God in a little package for you. You know, the creator is really the one behind it. The creator, like, your job is not your real source of money. The creator's your source of money, but the creator's using the job as like a channel, right? Because things have to come through the physical. So we are used as channels and vessels for the creator to allow the creator's light to flow through. And this devotion to priming that vessel, to perfecting the vessel, is drawing us closer into God. And so the star card is about healing, deep healing, like lifelong efforts towards healing, like healing those major like issues, karma, tikkun, right? The soul correction. With this healing sometimes comes the fruition of long-term or long-held dreams and goals. Sometimes life purpose, like falling into place. Like, all of these things are happening as a result of our devotion and our commitment to healing. And it's that consistency. It's not an overhaul thing. It's not like I'm going to go to this 3-week retreat, be done with it. It's like daily, throughout your life, like, not because it's a task to get done and over with, but because it brings you such a sense of peace and deep rest, and it strengthens your confidence and certainty and faith in the creator. And so through this process, what we've been doing is separation. Jesus said that he came here to be, not to bring peace and unity necessarily, but to bring separation and division. He said, I am a sword. And what he meant by that is that he came here to distinguish and draw the line between wicked and good versus evil, right? It wasn't, he wasn't like, everybody's all, like, everything's fine, everybody believe what you want. And he was like, no, like, we're drawing a line. I've come to distinguish between right and wrong, between wicked and goodness, of what is godly and what is not, of what is love and what is hate, what is prejudice, what is acceptance. Jesus came to draw a line and show people right from wrong. And so that's what he meant. He meant that when you declare yourself as a believer, you believe that Christ is the Messiah, the Redeemer. And we understand that to mean that the path of Christ consciousness is the perfected path of spiritual wisdom. It's not that other religions haven't figured out some pieces of the puzzle. And it's not that there weren't prophets and sages along the way that gave us quite a bit to start with, right? It's the whole Old Testament, the whole, so many books of the Bible and other, sages and wise people too. But it's just that it wasn't a complete package. It wasn't perfected until the Christ came and lived as an example of a fully awakened and realized human being in their divine expression. And then Christ showed us how to live, how to move, how to behave, what attitudes to have, how to look at the world, how to approach the world, how to treat one another, right? And it was mostly, it's about treating others the way that you want to be treated. It's about loving your neighbor and bringing peace to the world and helping the needy and the vulnerable. And we're not going to go deep into the whole Sermon on the Mount, but there's not a lot of complex teachings that Jesus gives. There are more hidden teachings, but the main points that he was making weren't difficult or complicated issues to understand. they're just difficult to live out because they require selflessness. And many times they require us to put ourselves outside of our comfort zone and sacrifice ourselves for the sake of others. And the core principle of Christ consciousness and Christianity is to sacrifice the flesh so that the divine can be resurrected within us, so that that divine Christed consciousness can come through, and that's who's operating through us. The Christ that wants to come and bring light into the world to help others, to serve others, not to take for the self alone, not to dominate, not to rule and reign over people and force people into ideas or anything like that. It's to be a humble servant of humility, and wanting to change ourselves, not only for our own peace and fulfillment, but so that we bring more light and goodness into the world and not the other way around, so that we're not doing more damage, so we're not spreading more darkness and perpetuating more pain and suffering, but just the opposite. So we have this separation card pointing out the fact that we have been working on separating ourselves from that lower self, from that ego self that makes us reactive, that causes us to go back into all those old patterns and loops and habits and reactive behavior that ends up causing us pain and suffering as well as others, right? So the more that we've been able to offload those old characteristics and vices, the more that we have been freed. It's like breaking off shells. It's like chiseling away layers and layers and layers of gunk and resin that has built up over this like glowing beacon of light, right? And the light is the creator, and we are the channel to shine that light and spread that light into the world. But we are forgetful, and that light is dimmed because of all those shells of negativity that hold us back. So we've been chiseling them and breaking them away. And those shells are the veil that's drawn in between us and the creator. And so the more that we can get rid of those layers, the closer we come to being in union with the creator. And when we are in union with the creator, that activates our super consciousness. And then in that state, we are highly intuitive, highly psychic, in tune with that voice of the Holy Spirit within. It becomes a lot more clear. We suddenly become like masters at having good timing, right? And the world is in our favor, and it's like we're in the right place at the right time, and we find flow, and we receive miracles and healing. We can even help others heal and manifest things for other people and manifest things into our life, and miracles flow. But it's like the Israelites when they were in the wilderness and they made it to Mount Sinai. They were in such a state of faith and unity because of what the Creator had just done for them when they crossed through the Red Sea. They believed so fully and they were in such alignment with one another and with themselves and with God, that when they got to Mount Sinai, where God was preparing to give them the Torah, they had awakened such miracles that they were starting to experience like immortality and the end of like illnesses. Like people were having these miraculous healings, like growing back limbs and things. So they were truly seeing like those crazy level miracles happening. Like when Jesus said, "You will do these things and greater." It was like that. And that's what he was talking about, like those conditions where we're so in touch, we're so in tune, and we're so in oneness with the Creator that we're channeling those divine abilities and powers through, where God can work through us in that state. Because when we share affinity, when we are like the Creator, we're vibrationally resonant and we can be in union with the Creator. But when we are angry, frustrated, resentful, snippy, short, enraged, despair, distraught, like we separate from the Creator. anxiety, you name it. So, but we become separated from the creator, and we cut ourselves off of that flow, that vibe, that cocoon of safety and protection that we were in. And we are now out of the bosom or the wing or the shade, or the shelter of the creator, right? Does that make sense? Because now we're not in affinity, so we can't resonate. So it's like we're separated from that. So when we're in that flow and in that, the more we're like God, the more we're sharing the consciousness and essence of God, the closer we are to God we can draw. And that puts us in that realm of blessings and miracles. But when we are reactive, it cuts us off and we separate from that realm. And we cut ourselves off from our blessings. And then that's when chaos starts to unfold. Now, the grace about that is that we can fall within a second, but we can also realign within that second as well. Like we can just instantaneously decide to shift our perspective once more, right? So miracles can happen instantaneously. They don't necessarily take a long time, although sometimes we take a long time. So the King of Pentacles here, this is like the fruition of the bride and the bridegroom being joined in that sacred union. This feminine king is the union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine qualities being brought into materialization. The pentacles are the material world. So all of this growth, all of this transformation, all of this change, all these blessings that the creator wants to bring into our life, we've been being prepared so that we can handle and maintain that goodness and fulfillment. And so now that we have a chance to be able to maintain that goodness and fulfillment, we can now align with that without it coming into our lives and ruining us. So we're in a good spot now. And so I think, God's asking, hey, do some breath work. Try to make space. We are preparing the bridal chamber. We're preparing the heart and soul here for the coming together of the bride and the bridegroom in that sacred union, that sacred alchemical marriage, where the Christ is joined with the Logos, with wisdom, with understanding. All right? So the more that we have understanding and wisdom within ourselves, the more we can navigate life with that sense of being guided and provided for and favored. And that is what is coming into fruition. It's that season of feeling a sense of well-being, a sense of being blessed, of favored, of being protected by the Creator. No matter what the circumstances, right? We are in changing circumstances all the time out in our reality. But we can create a sense of safety and security and belief and certainty in the Creator that helps us set our feelings and set our vibration and train it to stay there no matter what is happening on the outside, no matter what is going on around us. If all else fails, we know that the Creator is there and with us, and we're not alone. We're not alone. All right, you guys, that is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekly romance oracle message. Pray for the people of Gaza. Pray for the liberation of the people of Gaza. I try not to worry about politics because it's always some corrupted agenda of leadership, I try because like your faith and your religion, I respect those things that people have the right to choose their own beliefs and their own religion. But this isn't the genocide that's happening isn't about that. It's about greed. And even if it should never, I feel like we should never be going to war. I feel like, I've dream of a reality where we have peace on earth and we respect each other and we love one another. And we come together around the fact that we're all more the same than we are different. But I just want to pray for the people of Gaza, that they're liberated and that they're saved from this horror, this massacre. And I know that life keeps going and we have to keep up with it, but I don't want us to become numb or forget about the things that are going on in the world, and do what we can with what we can. But what we can always do is we can always pray, and we can always ask the Creator for assistance and strength and courage and direction, and pray for the liberation for that country. Pray for solutions to come in to help stop this from happening. I don't see our government changing their mind about anything. I think that the people who are in power right now are very hardened, and it's not about changing their mind or their hearts. I don't think that they're open to change. So I don't know what's going to have to happen, but I pray that something does. I hope that divine intervention comes in and the people are saved. All right, well, that is all for tonight. We will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.